click, click, click. You do not get a similar dopamine push for I'm working for hour 900 of 10,000. It's going to take me to finish this really big project because the reward's not proximate. And so what's going to win then? The complicated, deep thing, part of your slow productivity push to do something big over a long period of time, or Instagram or TikTok? And he said, yeah, your brain is wired to go for that. And that's a very hard challenge to win. And now what I learned from this video is that, yes, he is right. There are lots of videos that talk about this same thing, quote unquote, overstimulation. People are really feeling it. And I think young people are feeling it harder because they have more targets for their dopamine systems. They've more acclimatized their mind to all of these various rewards, and they're very good at these various rewards. There's so much pulling at them that young people in particular are really finding, yes, this is ruining my life. I can't do anything long-term, deep, cognitively useful. I'm getting bad grades at school. I can't advance in my job. I can't produce something that I really want to produce. Those of us my age or older maybe say, I distract myself too much and it slows down me doing important work. Young people really do feel like it's ruining their lives. So what should we do about it? Well, I thought, I can offer my own advice here. I mean, this is something I've studied and written about for a long time. Kind of wrote the definitive book on the power of focus and why you should cultivate it. I've been thinking and writing articles and books about this for a long time. So I figured let me review here on the podcast my own very complicated multi-part system for combating online overstimulation. So get a pad of paper ready because you don't want to miss step 9 or 10. There's a very complicated explanation for how you're going to have to very carefully navigate the online world. All right, so it's going to be very complicated. Are you ready? Okay, here it goes. Here's my solution. Don't use things that cause overstimulation. All right. Now, I mean, I'm being a little bit facetious here, but honestly, the answer is as simple as that. Dopamine system's powerful, so don't give it the targets that it's going to fire up for. You have to actually remove most of these sources of overstimulation from your life if you really want to start thinking and producing original thoughts at a high level. There's not these complex habits and careful ways of navigating your notifications and when you use this and when you don't use this. I'm telling you this as someone who thinks for a living and studies people who thinks for a living. The more sources of overstimulation you eliminate from your life, the easier. And we, of course, know this type of abstention approach is effective because we see it with other things that historically have hijacked the dopamine system and caused a lot of trouble. We do not tell people who have an issue with smoking, okay, we need to build a complex system of where you have cigarettes and where you don't, and you don't want to have it in the car, but you will have it here, and we're going to have an app that keeps track of how many cigarettes you've had, and then try to and then during certain periods, there's a time lock that locks off the cigarettes, and you can't have it during that period, but you can have it on this period, and we do a week on, but you don't smoke on Saturdays. No, we just say you got to quit smoking. It's the same with a lot of other addictions like this that people have trouble with. But we resist applying that type of clarity and abstention to online overstimulation. So let me get a little bit more granular about this. Social media, this is a big source of it. You got to just basically get this out of your life. If you have to have some social media for professional reasons, it should not be on your phone. It should be on a boring computer. It's something you should do on a schedule or hire someone to do on your behalf. It should never, ever be something you go to when you're bored. It should never be a source of distraction. It should be, I'm an author, and I set up my Instagram post in a shared document on Google Drive. Here's the photos, here's the text, and I have someone who posts it Fridays and Mondays. Or if I have to do that, I log in the thing on my computer, I post it, and then I shut it back down again. All right? So if you have to use it professionally, it's on a computer, it's boring, you never use it as a source of entertainment. You don't scroll online news. Look, you're not a editor at Gawker. You just get out of that world of online news and discussion. You don't have to be a part of it. How do you keep up with stuff in the world? We talked about this earlier in this episode where I gave advice to Reading Guy. Subscribe to some email newsletters that you read when you can that gives you interesting perspectives. Listen to podcasts, maybe listen to a daily news roundup podcast if you want to be kept up with more current events, right? Or listen to something like Sagar and Crystal's, their Breaking Points podcast, where they go through 10 stories about what's going on in the world. Podcasts are fine, right? Because it's something you have to turn on and listen to. It's not a knee jerk. It's not a knee jerk distraction that your dopamine system's going to kick into. No one is like trying to write and halfway through writing, like, oh, and quickly turn on a podcast. TikTok can do that. Online news can do that. Twitter can do that. Podcasts, they're fine. Newsletters are fine. Maybe even print out the articles you like and read them when you get a chance. That's fine. You'll be informed. You got to get rid of all that online news. What about YouTube? YouTube is tricky. Why is YouTube tricky? Because I think video is the future of independent content creation. But the recommendations sidebar on YouTube can make it into one of these dopamine inflaming sources of distraction. So when it comes to something like YouTube, you have to use it one way and not another. So this is maybe the place where I come closest to the navigation lines that you hear in a lot of these online videos. But I do think YouTube is a source of information. YouTube is become more a source of entertainment, high quality entertainment that rivals what you would get on TV, but it's also a giant source of distraction. So how do we make sense of YouTube? Well, here's my YouTube strategy. So in order to preserve YouTube as a way to look up instructions for things, which I think is a great use of YouTube. How do I change the oil in a Honda Odyssey? You look it up on YouTube. You can see a video of someone doing it. It's better than trying to find an article. To preserve that use of YouTube without it making a dopamine inflaming system, get one of these plugins for your browser that you use YouTube on that gets rid of the recommendations. So what you can do is you can search for something. You can see the search results. You can click on a search result. You can watch it. But there's no, here's what's coming up next. Or what about this and what about that? So that one type of plugin alone makes YouTube into a fantastic library without it being something that you can use as a source of knee-jerk distraction. Because again, when you're working on something hard, if you have blocked YouTube, you go, oh, let's go to youtube.com. You don't see anything. You have to search for something and find something. It's not a highly salient source of distraction. Now, what about entertainment on YouTube? Because again, I think this is actually important. I'm a believer that video trumps audio. The future of independent content is going to be video. I mean, this is like radio became a big thing until television was around, and then television just smashed the market share of radio. It was just so much bigger because humans like to see faces. Humans like to see visuals. And I increasingly believe watching a high-quality interview show on YouTube is better than 99% of the stuff that's on television or that's on and unscripted streaming services. And I think that gap's going to close more. So how do you, for example, watch a show like mine? Or maybe you're a Lex Fridman fan. You want to watch his interviews. How do you watch these type of programming as a substitute for lower quality television with, again, not having YouTube be a rabbit hole? And my answer here is television sets. I learned this from our YouTube guy, Jeremy, that increasingly televisions are becoming one of the most common devices on which this style of YouTube video is watched. So if you're going to look something up, you have a browser with a plugin that blocks the recommendations. If you're going to watch quote unquote independent high quality content on YouTube, you have it on the YouTube app and your Apple TV or Fire Stick on your television. And you watch it like you would any other television show in the same circumstances where you would watch television. I'm sitting down with a lunch break. I take out my remote, I turn on the TV, I go to the YouTube app, I search for the latest episode of whatever, and I put it on the TV. There's a lot of friction in using a television. There's also a lot of routine and ritual built into televisions where that's not part of your dopamine cycle. When you're in your home office trying to write something, you don't rush downstairs and turn on the TV and go to Netflix and select a show and turn it on. That's too much overhead. The television, you think about, oh, I'm going to have a meal, I'm taking a break. It's a big production to get it going. So you move high quality independent media consumption to the television and looking up to a browser protected, a plug-in protected browser. Now you don't have to worry about something like YouTube in your life being a source of distraction. Also throw in place better, less dopamine susceptible entertainment sources to fill the gap that the highly salient, distracting content is probably filling right now. Get back into music. Go see good movies and read about them before and after. Read much more books. High quality streaming content, high quality podcast, right? Get your mind used to other sorts of much higher quality content for the entertainment and distraction. The lower quality stuff will begin to seem less palatable. Same thing happens with food. You eat a lot of junk food, it's really addictive. My God, I just need chips and cookies and this makes me feel better. And what else would I want to eat? You stop doing it for a while. You start eating better food. You start cooking yourself. You go to the farmer's market. You're using high quality ingredients. Everyone will tell you this. You start eating well. A Snickers bar or a Chips Ahoy seems weird. It's cardboard. It's fake. It's too sugary. You don't crave it anymore. Right? So you don't break this connection to junk food by just white knuckling and eating less. You replace it with better food. So that's the final part of solving overstimulation, is in introducing, flooding the zone with much more quality stimulation so that you lose your taste for a TikTok video. You lose your taste for an inflammatory online article that someone tweeted and that you're scrolling through and then clicking the other links. All right? So again, this is how I think you solve overstimulation. If you're serious about it, you get rid of most of the sources of overstimulation. You stop using social media, you stop doing online news surfing, you put in a lot of high quality content, and in the few places where you might need to encounter these worlds, YouTube, looking things up, or high quality independent media, you have to do some limited social media for your work, you do so in a way that makes it so far from being a source of knee-jerk distraction that your dopamine system forgets about it. So anyways, I appreciated that video. Overstimulation is a problem. I'm glad people care about it. But let's just get blunt. Stop doing the thing that's ruining your life. Stop smoking. Stop.
Hello，大家好，欢迎回到星河百度。 今天咱们聊的话题可能会颠覆你对成瘾的认知，无论你对什么成瘾，无论你的瘾有多大，或许都能从中得到一些启发。一般我们认为对某件事上瘾，一定是因为这件事能带来快感，这个说法没错，但也不完全对。事实上，很多成瘾者在重复成瘾行为的时候已经感受不到快乐，但如果不重复成瘾行为，他们会非常痛苦。为什么会这样呢？这要从我自己说起。我上高3的时候学习一般，再加上任务重压力大，很快我染上了去网吧打游戏的习惯。因为只有在电脑上拿着枪突突敌人的时候，我才能让自己喘口气，才能感受到高中生活还有一丝乐趣。所以从一开始，我就是为了逃避学习的痛苦，才选择用游戏来麻痹自己。后来我上课想，吃饭想，睡觉还想，无时无刻不对游戏产生期望，这也导致任务更重，压力更大。学习的痛苦让我对游戏产生了更深的依赖和渴望，瘾也就形成了。即便打游戏已经没有了第一次那种快感，但如果不打，我就只能回到现实，承受学习的痛苦，想想就挺痛苦的。很多瘾都是这么形成的。试想一下，你每天上着朝九晚没点的班，每天扛着养家糊口的重担，工作和生活的压力把你挤压的没有一点空间，或许只有跑到厕所抽根烟，刷会儿手机，在夜深时打把游戏，喝点啤酒，才能带来片刻的愉悦感。因为只有在这些时候，你才是最放松的。不过在享受完多巴胺带来的快感之后，痛苦还在原地等着你，而且前后落差会让你觉得更痛苦。于是你一有机会就选择开溜，逃避虽可耻，但有用也有趣。在痛苦的驱使下，你对快乐上瘾了。这个快乐可能是烟瘾、酒瘾、性瘾、网瘾、手机瘾、游戏瘾、食物瘾等等。凡是能刺激大脑释放多巴胺带来快感的行为，都有成瘾的可能性。而且多巴胺的释放量越多，就越容易成瘾，一旦成瘾也越难戒掉。好在今天咱们聊的方法来自于斯坦福大学